We're recording. Great. Good evening. My name is Gregory Dalek. I have the privilege of being the Daniel E. Offutt III Professor and Chair of the Department of Psychiatry. And it's a privilege for me to welcome all of you, colleagues, family, and friends, to our celebration of the Marcia A. Valenstein, MD, Collegiate Professorship in the Department of Psychiatry. This evening, we celebrate the installation of Dr. Kara Zivin as the inaugural Marcia Valenstein Collegiate Professor. Dr. Zivin, as you will hear, is a highly accomplished scholar, mentor, and scientist. The themes of her work have developed from her interests as a behavioral health services and policy researcher, where she has long focused on issues of access to and quality and costs of care for vulnerable populations, including pregnant and postpartum women, military veterans, and older adults. Named professorships recognize the accomplishments of faculty who contribute significantly to their fields. They are a tremendous university honor, as well as a career milestone for those who receive them. While most professorships are endowed by philanthropic support, this professorship is a bit different and unique because it is established by the department and approved by the provost. I am delighted to be here celebrating Dr. Zivin's outstanding achievements, as well as her future contributions to science, training, and clinical care. Joining us today from Dr. Zivin's family are her husband, Ryan McCammon, her son, Reed Zivin McCammon, her stepson, Louis McCammon, and his mother, Rhonda McCammon, her sister, Leslie Zivin Candell, her mother-in-law, Cindy Berghoff, and her partner, Jay Miller. And joining us remotely is her mother, Rennie Zoe Zivin, her father-in-law, Henry McCammon, and his wife, Ivy McCammon, and her sister-in-law, Rochelle Patrick. We welcome you all. As we honor Dr. Zivin today, we also honor Dr. Marcia Valenstein and her career and legacy in the department. And joining us from her family are her husband, Dr. Paul Valenstein, her brother-in-law and sister-in-law, Carl and Susan Valenstein, her daughters, Helen and Clara, who join us remotely. And we welcome all of you and look forward to hearing from Dr. Valenstein in just a little bit later in the program. I also want to welcome the many other family members, friends, colleagues, and generous supporters of the Departments of Psychiatry and Obstetrics and Gynecology, and our colleagues from the VA Center for Clinical Management Research and the Institute for Health Policy and Innovation, and the many other units where Dr. Zivin has presence and membership on this campus, which frankly are too numerous to enumerate here. We're all very happy that you're all here with us today and mark this special occasion. And to our guests who are watching online, welcome and thank you for celebrating this momentous occasion with us. Dr. Zivin is appointed in both the Departments of Psychiatry and Obstetrics and Gynecology, and it is a special pleasure to share the podium tonight with Dr. Dee Fenner, whom I introduce now. Dr. Fenner is the Bates Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and department chair as well. And I want to welcome Dee to the podium to make some remarks.
Greetings, and thank you, Dr. Dalek. And thank you to all of you who have joined us today here in person and others who are on virtually. Today is a special day, and it is a privilege for me to be part of this wonderful celebration. While Dr. Zivin's primary appointment is in the Department of Psychiatry, since 2019, she has held a joint appointment in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Over the past 6 years, she has been collaborating with a number of faculty in our department and has quickly become an integral member of our research team. Among Dr. Zivin's closest collaborations in the department is Dr. Vanessa Dalton, our Associate Chair of Research and Director of our Program for Women's Healthcare Effectiveness Research, of which Dr. Zivin is an active member. They collaborate on Dr. Zivin's several active grants in maternal behavioral health and also recently submitted an R01 proposal as MPIs that aims to characterize the consequences of restricting abortion access on our population health. In addition to Dr. Dalton, Dr. Zivin works with other faculty, including Dr. Michelle Moniz and Dr. Lindsay Adman, for whom Dr. Zivin serves as a primary mentor on her ARC KO8. Dr. Zivin's data and analytic team is also based in our department. We greatly value each of these relationships and mentorship and support Dr. Zivin that she provides to our department. Dr. Zivin's research portfolio in perinatal mental health includes a suite of interrelated studies funded by the National Institutes of Health to examine the impacts of federal and state behavioral health policy changes on clinical and economic outcomes among childbearing individuals and infants. Her research in reproductive behavioral health services and policy represents one of the largest and fastest growing portfolios on this topic nationally. And we are extremely fortunate to have her as a faculty member at the University of Michigan. Dr. Zivin's team recently published a high-profile paper in JAMA Psychiatry documenting alarming increasing trends in suicidal thoughts and self-harm among pregnant and postpartum individuals, including larger increases in non-Hispanic Black individuals. Another study published in Health Affairs showed that pregnant women with perinatal mood and anxiety disorders have a higher probability of having a cesarean section than those without these disorders. As you will hear from Dr. Zivin, one of her long-term goals includes creating a maternal health services research and policy center that could incorporate translational work and include broad partnerships across campus and beyond. This is well aligned with the objectives we have for research in our department as we seek to obtain an NIH-funded center, and her efforts could provide resources such as linked data on several million mothers and infants, evidence-based policy recommendations, and mentorship opportunities. Dr. Zivin's research closely correlates with the NIH's strategic goals for women's health research, including advancing rigorous studies, developing analytical techniques, and leveraging data sources that identify findings of relevance to the health of women. I am excited to see how Dr. Zivin and her interdisciplinary collaborators within OBGYN, psychiatry, and other departments and schools will succeed in supporting Michigan's missions of advancing the educational and the career development of the next generation of research and clinical scientists. This work will undoubtedly address gaps, unmet needs, and barriers to access high-quality preventive care and appropriate treatment for women. Kara Zivin's work is scientifically and academically outstanding, and she is a great selection to be installed into this collegiate professorship. Let me close my remarks by thanking Dr. Dalick for this partnership, Dr. Valenstein for her contributions over many years, and for her mentorship of Dr. Zivin. And Dr. Zivin, I congratulate you for your accomplishments, the celebration of you and your academic success, and the promise that you bring to answering important questions that will save lives. At this time, we'll have Dr. Dalick will introduce Dr. Valenstein.
Thank you, Dr. Fenner, for your support of Dr. Zivin and your partnership with the Department of Psychiatry. It is my honor now to introduce Dr. Marcia Valenstein, an emeritus member of the Michigan Medicine School's faculty and a faculty mentor to Dr. Zivin. Dr. Valenstein, prior to her retirement, was the Susan Crumpacker Brown Research Professor of Psychiatry. Her research focused, and still does, on assessing the quality of care for patients with a variety of mental health conditions. She's examined the use of psychotropic medications in national samples of patients, studying medication adherence and the pharmacologic treatment of depression. She also assessed the relationship between pharmacological management of patients and suicide deaths. In addition, Dr. Valenstein has been involved in developing and testing in multiple randomized trials, lower cost, innovative ways to provide treatment to individuals with mental health conditions, including in primary care settings and using online technology. She's worked with multiple mentees over the years, including Dr. Zivin, who have gone on to tenured positions of their own, both at the University of Michigan and at other academic medical centers. Naming this professorship to recognize her is both an honor for us and a meaningful way to pay tribute to her profound impact on the department and in the field. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Valenstein to the podium to accept a token of today's celebration and to share some of her own remarks. So this is sorry. This medallion is a token of remembrance for today's celebration and the inauguration of the Marcia A. Valenstein Collegiate Professorship. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your generous introduction, Greg. I'm honored to be here to celebrate Dr. Zivin's installation as a new collegiate chair. This is my third time serving as a mentor or a collaborator at an installation ceremony, and it's one of my favorite engagements. How much better can it be than this? So let's savor this moment of happiness, rejoicing in Kara's hard work and success, and the roles many people in this audience here and on Zoom have played in her career. Her family, her other mentors, brilliant statisticians, innovative collaborators, the IHPI and the VA HSR&D infrastructures, and lab managers. Erin Miller and Heather Walters, I'm talking about you. So now, just take a big breath in and out. Being present with Kara in this moment, on this occasion, feeling grateful for her work and our interconnected, supportive academic community. Of course, I am touched that Kara chose to name her collegiate professorship for me. Collegiate chairs at the university can be named for former Michigan faculty who are working elsewhere now, and for faculty who are either retired or deceased. I was grateful that I squeaked in under the criterion of retired rather than deceased. Kara wanted to name this collegiate professorship for a woman, given her focus on peripartum mental health. However, there are only a few people in the retired woman professor category in our department. And so there was a small pool of candidates from which Kara could choose. This scarcity reflects women's circumstances not so long ago. It surprises me that I was in college when women were first allowed to have a credit card under their own name without a cosigner. So this evening is for Kara, but it's also for women, particularly in academic medicine. Thanks to Kara from all of us. So let's talk about Kara. The organizer of tonight's events told me that the department chair, Gregory, would enumerate Kara's many academic achievements, and that I should concentrate on how we met and the personal side of Dr. Zivin's story. Thus, I do not have to talk about her 200 plus publications, the 6 grants on which she is currently PI or co-PI, and the many state and national policy changes that have come about in part from her work. Instead, I am free to tell the behind the scenes story, the backstory, the story which you all really want to hear. Some older people in the audience may remember reading the lives of saints, examining well-lived lives to learn how to better live ourselves. In my view, we can learn from any person's life, saint or no, and we can learn much from Kara. When I started drafting this talk, I didn't have a moment's hesitation about the personal quality that I thought most typified Kara. That quality is grit. Many of you are likely familiar with the research of Angela Duckworth of the University of Pennsylvania. Dr. Duckworth defines grit as passion and perseverance for long-term goals. She notes that grit is holding steadfast to that goal, even when you fall down, even when you screw up, even when the progress towards the goal is halting or slow. The concept of grit includes resilience, courage, and conscientiousness. Talent may be necessary to move an academic field forward, but really, achievement hinges on effort and perseverance, qualities that Kara has in spades. So, as directed, I will start with how Kara and I met. Kara had come to Michigan to explore the opportunities for young faculty members in mental health and policy research. I met her in the late afternoon, knowing that I still had many preparations for a family trip early in the next morning. Kara and I had a good conversation in my office about depression treatment and policy, but I had to drop family dogs off at doggy care before the trip. So I impulsively invited her to come along with me and continue our conversation. What Kara did not tell me at the time, being a polite person who was looking for an academic position, was that she was not very fond of dogs. In fact, she was a little afraid of dogs. And what I did not tell her is that I'm an erratic driver who becomes more erratic if I'm having a good conversation with a passenger. It was a lively ride with dogs jumping about the car, sleet coming down, a few missed stop signs, and some skidding. Although we did not actually end up with a formal police report, it was an inadvertent stress test for Kara. The fact that she still came to Michigan was an early testament to grit and her ability to tolerate a little craziness. From the beginning of her time at Michigan, Kara put herself out there, meeting and collaborating with a wide range of faculty. Her interest in policies related to pharmaceutical and depression treatment jibed with the interests of many. As one of her mentors, I should have arranged many of these meetings, but Kara's enthusiasm for finding excellent collaborators outpaced my ability to make the connections. She would tell me that she had met with this or that person in public health, ISR, or another institution, and found commonalities in their interests. She soon had dozens of academic friends, champions, and colleagues here and at other universities. I would be chatting with someone from a different department or university, and they would mention this new faculty member, Kara Zivin, who was terrific, and how excited they were about the work they would be doing together. I might have been concerned about a young faculty taking on too many commitments, but I knew Dr. Zivin's level of energy and commitment. She was heading towards her goal, and she wanted to work with the most promising people she can find, many of whom are in this audience. She even collaborated with her father, Dr. Justin Zivin, a renowned researcher in neurology, who was a pioneer in establishing the efficacy of TPA in stroke. Kara wrote a paper with him on the uptake of TPA and policies that might promote its use. I know Kara's father was a major influence in her life, and that Dr. Justin Zivin lives on not only through his own research legacy, but through Kara and her work. He is with us tonight. Perhaps he and others were responsible for the grit that kept Kara going, even when obstacles arose. During her time at Michigan, Kara submitted many, many grants. Like most of us, she failed to get some, and she succeeded in getting others. Although she is currently a PI in 6 grants, Kara has been transparent about the challenges of continually obtaining funding. She has openly shared her failures as well as her successes with local colleagues and publicly via social media. So few of us talk about the stresses of academia, the late nights, the false starts, the rejections. It isn't all acceptances and celebrations. Kara had the courage to talk about the challenges the rest of us would prefer to bury or at least put in the closet. When Kara faced serious health issues during her own pregnancy, she again talked about it rather than hiding it. She published accounts about her illness experience in health affairs and other venues. She took her lived experience and used it to help others. Kara is the epitome of the old Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Her expanded account of her lived experience and the science behind this experience is now with an agent, and I anticipate seeing her book in independent bookstores and, of course, on Amazon in the next few years. Which, lastly, brings me to Kara and writing. Kara can translate data into informative papers and shared knowledge faster than almost any professor in the academy. She's never stalled by writer's block. Within a year of joining our group, she wrote up results from our suicide study among veterans with depression and was asked to testify before Congress. Not bad for a new faculty member. Kara now has more than 200 publications, and she is only mid-career. By the time she retires, she will need to wheel her CV around in a roller bag so she doesn't injure her back. Kara's capacity for writing reflects hard work as well as talent. She obtained a master's of fine arts and creative nonfiction while continuing a day job of writing scientific grants, academic papers, and raising children. She uses her writing abilities not only in her research, but also to explain findings to the public so they can make effective personal choices and contribute to policy discussions. She knows all of us, both academic and lay, need narratives, stories, to understand and care about mental health issues. And the crafting of narratives requires skill and sustained effort. Kara has persisted, and through persistence, she has flourished. Please join me tonight in congratulating Kara on her accomplishments and on the narrative that she continues to develop in her own life, an example of perseverance and passion for all of us.
Thank you, Dr. Valenstein. You see what she did there, sort of said what I was going to say and that she wasn't going to say it, and then she said it. So I'll make just a few comments before inviting the guest of honor to the podium. As you've heard, Dr. Zivin has established herself and justifiably earned an international reputation for her work that include both pregnant and postpartum women, military veterans, and older adults. Her collaborations within the University of Michigan and the Department of Veterans Affairs, as well as other universities, state governments, foundations, and federal funders, have had a significant, really tremendous impact on quantifying and clarifying the population-level impacts of clinical research, one of the things she's particularly adept at. She's highlighted the intended and unintended consequences of policies and programs that affect patient and public health outcomes. Her publications, her productivity has been prodigious, as has been mentioned, and arcing towards high-impact journals, including the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA Psychiatry, the American Journal of Psychiatry, American Journal of Public Health, and most recently, the New England Journal of Medicine. And as Marcia mentioned, a unique feature of her continuing development as a scientist and communicator has been the pursuit of her master's in fine arts in creative nonfiction writing, allowing her to write effectively to educate the public about the work she is doing, particularly in the area of reproductive behavioral health and describing how data intersect with personal narrative. Can I ask you to join me? I am pleased now to have the honor of presenting a medallion to Dr. Zivin on this special occasion. Dr. Zivin, congratulations on becoming the inaugural Marcia A. Valenstein Collegiate Professor of Psychiatry. I'd like to present you with this medallion on behalf of the Regents of the University of Michigan. We thank you for your numerous contributions to Michigan medicine and look forward to your term as the Valenstein Professor.
Thank you everyone so much for being here today. I really appreciate this immense honor and for sharing this occasion. I would like to convey my deepest gratitude and share some thoughts at arriving at this moment. A quarter of tenure-track faculty members have a parent with a Ph.D., and they have 25 times higher likelihood of securing that position than the general population. This facet of my upbringing represents part of my story, but not its entirety. Only 5% of medical school full professors are women. Less than 2% are women with PhDs. Although I had both the privileges of and challenges associated with exposure to academic medicine during my upbringing, I also struggled with the hidden depression and the academy's not so hidden gendered norms. My connection here at the University of Michigan began before my birth and took years from early seed through drought and near decimation to grow and bloom. My Michigan story starts in 1964 because my parents' lives shaped me in powerful ways. During the year that anti-racism protests swept the country and the US attacked North Korea, my mother transferred from Chicago Teachers College to the University of Michigan. In 1966, she became a student teacher at Angel Elementary School and a member of the Pi Lambda Theta Honor Society in Education. After graduation, she returned to Chicago to pursue graduate studies. Meanwhile, my father took part in the first cohort of the medical scientist training program at Northwestern University. In 1968, my parents married. They returned to Ann Arbor for my father's medical internship year from 1972 to 1973. My mother took flying lessons at the Ann Arbor airport, which she told me she used to delay finishing her dissertation. My father rarely came home or slept. Next, they headed to Bethesda, Maryland. My father conducted intramural research at the National Institutes of Health during the Vietnam War. My mother worked in the Office of Women in Higher Education at the American Council on Education. In 1975, they moved to the University of California, San Francisco. On the rare weekend my father did not work, my parents explored national parks. My mother appears as a tiny speck amongst sequoias and redwoods. My mother delivered me, and 2.5 years later, my sister Leslie at Moffitt Hospital. The doctor shooed my father, then a medical resident, out of the room when he worried about delivery complications. Weeks after Leslie's birth, our parents relocated to the University of Massachusetts in 1978 and to the University of California, San Diego and the San Diego VA in 1985. My father devoted his clinical and research career to stroke treatment. My mother set aside her aspirations. We know the challenges educated women faced then and now. While struggling with my moods and rootlessness during adolescence, I joined the peer counseling program at my high school and a similar program in college. I wanted to learn how to help myself and then to support others. I thought I would become a psychologist. My path during undergraduate and graduate studies at Johns Hopkins University took unanticipated detours. I did not connect with the biologically based psychology courses offered and gravitated toward international studies instead. Graduate coursework in politics, policy, history, economics, and statistics led me to public health. Over time, rather than tending to a single tree, I saw the forest, the healthcare ecosystem, and my potential role in it. My focus on mental health shifted from the individual to the societal level. When completing my PhD in health policy at Harvard, I applied for a postdoctoral fellowship at University of Michigan's School of Public Health. Despite hearing about football games with fans wearing maize and blue, I did not visit Ann Arbor until my late 20s. On the same day as Howard Dean's infamous scream at the Democratic National Convention in 2004, I met with Chair of Psychiatry, Dr. John Graydon. I rode the blue campus bus to sit in his office on the 9th floor of the University Hospital in my interview suit. During our conversation, he handed me a copy of a grant that would provide the infrastructure funding for the nation's first depression center, which the University Regents had approved in 2001. Although I did not choose Michigan for a fellowship, the Depression Center's promise remained lodged within me. Its mission of bringing depression out of the shadows aligned with my personal goals. After another year in Boston, I searched for faculty positions. I sent countless cold letters to departments of public health and pharmacy, nursing, and psychiatry. I networked and explored leads. One connection proved fortuitous. A PhD classmate, Connie Ma, had worked as a research assistant at the Stanford and Palo Alto VA with a young professor named John Pate. John had since moved to Michigan, and Connie thought our shared interest in mental health and chronic disease might lead to a collaboration. John and I met in Boston in the summer of 2005 at the Academy Health Annual Research Meeting, the preeminent conference for health services researchers. We sat in the dark, cavernous Heinz Convention Center discussing his research and his colleague, Dr. Marcia Valenstein. I had known that Marcia and her colleagues had developed a model assessing the cost effectiveness of depression screening published in the Annals of Internal Medicine in 2001, around the time I began searching for a dissertation topic. They used a Markov model, also known as a decision tree, to compare treatment options. The study found one-time depression screening is cost-effective, whereas annual and periodic screening is not. I too had envisioned developing a cost-effectiveness model for depression care. Some employers value access to mental health services more than others. I had wondered, could an economic model that showed societal benefits of screening, diagnosing, and treating mental disorders motivate employers to change their approaches? When I met Marcia in Ann Arbor in late 2005, I had not yet created my envisioned model. My desired PhD mentor had left for sabbatical, and instead I completed a dissertation on depression's impact on chronic disease and sought new opportunities. Dressed in a navy blue suit, nylons, and blue suede shoes on a late November day, chilled by a light snow, I arrived again on the University of Michigan campus. I shuttled from one faculty member to another. An escort took me from the University Hospital to the VA Medical Center, where I first met my future department chair, Dr. Gregory Dalek. Unlike many campus interviews I attended between 2004 and 2006, my first encounter with Marcia stands out. When I arrived in her office, she asked if we could take a drive. We did not compare notes. She planned to leave for vacation the next day. I soon found myself a passenger in her black sedan with a friendly dog covered in white and gray fur on my lap. He sloshed around my knee-length nylon coat as we wound down a dirt road. I had spent a lifetime disliking dogs, but I held Veda for Marcia, brushing myself off for the ride, a ride that continues to this day. On that trip in 2005, I toured the future site of the Rachel Upjohn Building, the Depression Center, literally a hole in the ground. I witnessed the promise of research, clinical care, and my future with room to plant roots. I moved to Michigan in the summer of 2006. That year, Marcia launched a study of VA depression treatment and suicide. In my dimly lit office in a hidden corridor in the VA hospital, I finished papers for my postdoctoral fellowship and conducted research for Marcia's study. With her guidance, I proposed to create a cost-effectiveness model of VA mental health treatment within primary care settings for my Career Development Award. Not only did Marcia serve as my primary mentor, but she integrated me into her research team and taught me how to lead a grant. She also encouraged celebrating our careers. On a sunny day in her tree-shaded backyard in the summer of 2007, She hosted a party after I submitted my proposal. I did not know if or when it would receive funding, but Marcia reminded me to relish milestones along the way. Not long afterward, I received a voicemail requesting that I testify before the House Veterans Affairs Committee about a paper I led from Marcia's study. We had published predictors of suicide among veterans with depression in the American Journal of Public Health, including younger age, white race, and male gender. I had argued that Marcia should attend in my place, but the committee had commanded my attention. Grainy C-SPAN coverage reveals a bad hair day and makeup during my testimony and conflict between VA and Congress. I absorbed icy stares of advocates and weeping family members. As a researcher, I could not then change mental health care within the VA. I appreciated the grief of surviving family members and their desperation to decrease veteran suicide. Over a decade would pass before I would again lead suicide research. Other forces influenced my next steps. I received a funding notice from my award from my Career Development Board in 2008. That same year, VA mandated integrating mental health providers into primary care settings nationwide, which eliminated the opportunity to study cost effectiveness, comparing integrated care to usual care. I fought and fiddled with my decision tree, digging for fertile soil, struggling to give it roots and life. Over time, Marcia's research endeavors and mine diverged, which happens in mentor-mentee relationships. But I continued to use the skills developed during our collaborations, including celebrations, even during challenging times. In 2010, I remarried, became a stepmother, bought a house, and became pregnant in the space of 3 months. My colleagues hosted a wedding reception for my husband, Ryan, my stepson, Louis, and me. I have written and spoken about the swirl of significant insomnia, depression, and anxiety that plagued me during pregnancy and after delivery. I had planned to submit 3 large grants while pregnant and ended up submitting 2. Bleary-eyed and exhausted, I dragged myself into the office on the 2nd floor of the Depression Center, collapsing onto the purple couch I stole from the lobby. Behind a locked door, I propped up my laptop on my growing belly and attempted to put words on the page with diminishing success. Marcia became an integral part of helping first me and then my family through what became severe illness and extended hospitalization. She coaxed me out of my office and we paced up and down hallways. Later, she connected me to our colleagues on the 1st floor, where I became an outpatient. Ryan or my parents soon joined me as I slid into darkness. With her husband, Paul, Marcia hosted my baby shower in January 2011. We put on brave faces as I tried to hide my despair. My mind remained in such a fog that I did not question Paul's idea of a game. He suggested that all the attendees guess the girth of the mother-to-be, a light moment in an otherwise challenging day for me. When my illness reached a crisis, I landed in the emergency room. Ryan reached out to Marcia for guidance and support. Then, after our son Reed's birth in February and my hospital discharge, Marcia and Paul babysat our 5-week-old baby. Ryan and I went out to dinner for our 1-year wedding anniversary. The next day, I began what would become 9 episodes of electroconvulsive therapy, or ECT. During my illness and hospitalization, I received scores on both of my grant submissions. I missed my funding for my first R01 by 1 percentile. It would take me another 8 years to receive this coveted award. Yet my first independent VA grant focused on risks of death associated with depression besides suicide received a fundable score. With Marcia's help, my treatment and time, the fog lifted and I became a mother. In July 2011, I returned to work full-time. The next month, the US Food and Drug Administration, FDA, issued a warning regarding increased risk of cardiac arrhythmias when using high-dose citalopram, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, to treat depression. My collaborators and I used VA data and showed no increased risk of negative cardiac outcomes or death associated with citalopram use. We published our findings in the American Journal of Psychiatry in 2013. Our study led the FDA to publish an editorial, and we published our response. I presented our findings at the American Psychiatric Association meeting in 2014. The audience welcomed our findings. Yet prescribers transition patients onto another antidepressant or no medication to avoid potential liability associated with continued citalopram use. We must pay attention to intended and unintended effects of health policies, I concluded again. In 2014, my team and I submitted a proposal to examine the effects of FDA warnings for psychotropic medications on patient outcomes in the VA. After my challenging pregnancy and early motherhood, I tried to outrun my moods. I faced rejection after rejection when submitting 10 grants in 18 months and injured my feet 3 weeks before the marathon I had spent 2 years training for. Even though my VA studies led me to receive tenure, I had not secured the vaunted R01 grant. Meanwhile, I took part in a program in Washington, D.C. called the Health and Aging Policy Fellowship. This 6 weeks residency connected me to federal policymakers to address pressing public health issues. For the following year and a half, I advised the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services on their program to integrate mental health care into primary care. Through this role, I became connected with a program evaluator, Mathematica. 3 days before I began a new part-time role at Mathematica, my VA proposal to assess FDA warnings received a notice of award. But by then I had decided to pause grant writing, which would last over 2 years. I embraced contract work for federal agencies, such as the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Planning and Evaluation and the Substance Use Mental Health Services Administration. My experiences at Mathematica proved invaluable and led to ongoing work with state and foundation partners at Mathematica and the University of Michigan. For years, I had wandered through the woods as if using a GPS without a destination for my studies. Fueled by stubbornness, determination, and fear, I hoped that if I worked hard and followed leads, the path might one day become clear. I made one last attempt at sustained grant funding. Dogged, determined, and tired, I chose 2 topics: maternal mental health and employee burnout. After years of cowering in shame and guilt over my maternal mental illness, I glimpsed a new potential for growth. If I could make meaning out of my experiences, perhaps I could provide a lifeline for others. I penned personal narrative and online classes, supplemented using health services research and policy tools. In addition, my personal burnout as a floundering researcher led me to investigate employee well-being. While I awaited the fate of my new proposals, I returned to my long-standing incomplete goal of assessing the cost-effectiveness of depression care. My model had remained sidelined for years as I ran on the funding pursuit treadmill. One day, Dr. Dan Maxner, who leads the University ECT clinic, connected me with a medical resident, Eric Ross. They sought to model the cost effectiveness of ECT. Through that collaboration, we published findings in JAMA Psychiatry in 2018. Then I asked Eric if he wanted to work with me and Marcia to revive our long dormant depression cost effectiveness model. As of this month, I have published over 200 peer-reviewed papers, including 60 with Marcia. One of my proudest accomplishments involved extending her work that served as the impetus for our initial collaborations. The tree paper came back to life. 20 years since I first imagined this research, 18 years after Marcia published her paper, and 2 years after Marcia's retirement, our paper appeared in the Annals of Internal Medicine in 2019. We found no evidence that antidepressants or psychotherapy proved more cost-effective than the other treatment, concluding that patient preference should play a key role in depression treatment decision-making. Meanwhile, my proposals on maternal mental health and VA mental health provider burnout both received funding. After 11 tries at R-level independent research funding, I secured my first R01 grant at age 43, over 15 years after I completed my Ph.D. Less than 3 years later, I had 3 R01 grants with 2 supplements and a VA Research Career Scientist Award, one of only 24 such awards nationwide. My NIH studies study the effects of federal and state health policies on pregnant and postpartum individuals with mental health and substance use conditions, including access to care, delivery outcomes, health services use, and costs. I called the first study the Maternal Behavioral Health Policy Evaluation Study, or MAPLE. From there, my team and I built a forest, including birch, poplar, and spruce companion studies. I co-lead an unrelated suicide grant atlas named for the Blue Cedar Atlas tree. At the VA, we started assessing predictors and consequences of mental health provider burnout in December 2019. We did not know that the pandemic would soon arrive and amplify the national discussion about employee burnout. Before the pandemic, attending writing residencies in Vermont transported me to another world where I could temporarily set aside my roles as mother, wife, and researcher. When struggling to write, I repeated to myself the mantra from the president of Academy Health: data makes you credible, stories make you memorable. Too often, researchers produce evidence, but they cannot articulate the importance or meaning of their results. A jungle of statistics does not resonate with clinicians, policymakers, or other stakeholders. While writing, I appreciated the beauty of a thoughtful narrative. Research shows that expressive writing can have profound benefits. My GPS now had a destination. Combining my personal and professional experiences, I could conduct work I envisioned early in my career. Dr. Lindsay Adman, an obstetric and gynecologist specialist, led the first MAPLE study that grew from this fertile ground. We reported increasing trends in suicidality among pregnant and postpartum individuals. After JAMA Psychiatry published our study in 2020, Meghan Markle revealed her suicidal thoughts during pregnancy in a primetime interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2021. With the issue in the national spotlight, I published an editorial in Stat First Opinion and a related podcast that combined data from our research with personal narrative about my struggles during and after pregnancy. Last year, I contributed a personal essay to the journal Health Affairs for a special issue about maternal mental health. I took part in the journal's national briefing highlighting the public importance of mental health during pregnancy and postpartum. Meanwhile, at the VA, my burnout research remained one of only 2 VA-funded studies conducted nationwide on the topic. My team published findings earlier this year in health services research showing that workload remains the leading contributor to burnout. Today, I am working with Psychiatry, Obstetrics and Gynecology, the Institute for Healthcare Policy and Innovation, the Depression Center, the VA Center for Clinical Management Research, and others to create Redwood. The vision, A Lifetime in the Making, will tie together 3 central topics: women's mental and reproductive health, employment engagement and well-being, and writing personal narrative. Redwood, a powerhouse of a tree species, the tallest in the world, living for hundreds of years, provided a perfect acronym: leading research, advancing equity, analyzing data, addressing mental health of women, workplace well-being, and writing, creating opportunities, facilitating organizational change, and disseminating deliverables. Our working vision and mission include a vision to advance women's personal and professional lives through science and story. Our mission to serve as a resource to enhance women's health and well-being through interdisciplinary research, policy evaluation, and narrative. To grow Redwood, we will apply for an NIH-funded Maternal Healthcare Services Research and Policy Center. We will also start a recurring seminar called Deep Roots that will discuss career challenges and insights women face in academic settings. We will recruit senior faculty and staff as speakers from a range of disciplines locally and nationally. The seminar will also include sessions that apply approaches used in narrative medicine to public health and policy. We will engage in generative writing, discussing prose and poetry, providing reading lists, and facilitating constructive participant feedback exchanges. As I outline initial goals for the Redwood Center, I recognize the honor and privilege of having a named professorship, becoming a full tenured professor at a medical school, and having resources to build a center. These experiences remain exceedingly rare for women, especially those with PhDs. Abundant data exists about the barriers that female faculty members face. Women perform more service, have fewer leadership roles, lower rates of obtaining and maintaining research funds, lower salaries, slower promotion rates, fewer high-profile publications, and face a myriad of professional challenges, especially if they have family care responsibilities. Black and Indigenous people of color remain underrepresented in faculty ranks. The ongoing global pandemic highlighted and exacerbated these issues, which existed long before our children came home from school and we became tethered to Zoom. We must identify unmet needs and barriers to direct policies that allow women to thrive at work and at home. I believe Redwood will make important contributions to these profound, vexing public health challenges. We will marry science and data with individual experiences, words, art, and memories. We will conduct research studies, analyze data, publish findings, provide career development opportunities, and engage with policymakers. We will explore meaningful connections that can provide personal fulfillment and belonging. I hope that you will join the Redwood community and reach out to me with ideas, interests, and feedback that will help our center grow. Before I close, I want to share perspectives from over 2 decades of interdisciplinary research at the intersection of public health and policy. As someone who has often felt out of place, I take solace in the seeds of wisdom I have gathered and can now share. I created 2 versions of my shadow CV to illustrate my journey. The first shows my funding history with successes in green and failures in red. In the second version, I added personal, often unspoken challenges that I faced. We all have red ink and life transitions, even if we want to bury them deep underground. Along the way, I have picked up and stored kernels of insights that nurture growth and share ground with Charles Blow's reflections on his 30-year career at the New York Times. I had the good fortune of attending his lecture here in Michigan in 2017, and I recognize his contributions now. Try to be the best at what you do. The money will take care of itself. This mantra remains hard to follow in a job that involves constantly raising my salary for myself and my team. The desperation of chasing money has led me astray more than once, creating personal and professional havoc. Yet the more strongly I believed in the topic I pursued, the better results I had. In business and in academia, persistence pays off. I spent more than a decade questioning whether and how I could maintain this career. My ideas rarely aligned with contemporary funding priorities, even if they did years later. A 2019 study in Nature Communications showed that early career setback appears to cause performance improvement among those who persevere. Others may have more advantages than you, but no one has more hours in the day than you. No one can outwork you unless you let it happen. This adage sounds harsh and like a recipe for burnout. However, we all choose how we use our time and energy, or as writer Annie Dillard said, how we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. Find your workplace tribe. I joined a clinical department without a medical degree, psychology or social work training, basic science skills, or plans to lead clinical trials. Although I work in a health services research group, I remain in the minority focused on policy evaluation. My sense of unease coupled with curiosity led me to pursue broad collaborations. I searched long and hard for a workplace tribe, and I built my own. Everyone you work for or with is a reference. I cannot emphasize this point enough. My position came through professional networking. Other universities have aimed to recruit me through mutual colleagues. I forged connections through federal, state, and local governments, advocacy organizations, and foundations. People you interview with today may not offer you the job, but they may write your reference letter for promotion 5 or 10 years from now, or review your papers and grants. How my staff and trainees experience collaborating with me far outweighs the opinions of those who outrank me. We work in a small world. No one cares about your disadvantages, overcome them. This adage also sounds harsh. We all face struggles which typically remain hidden. Some face long-standing structural disadvantages that we must dismantle. Yet in the world of academic medicine at a top university involves competition for funds, attention, and opportunities. Managers must be managed. This final adage may feel less relevant as university positions involve discretion about how we allocate our time and resources. But I remind you to know your worth. Believe in yourself even if you think others do not. Take care of yourself. No one will do so for you. Someone's criticism reveals their character as much, if not more, than it reflects yours. The system is unfair, the job is hard, and the demands are immense. Weigh the alternatives and decide what's best for you. Set expectations and boundaries. Play the long game. When I moved to Michigan in 2006, I did not anticipate still living here in 2022. Today, I have a home and a family. We live near the woods where the roads turn to dirt and the deer roam free. This year, we planted a maple tree in our yard. Following Marcia's example, I invite friends and colleagues to join my Labrador Retriever Dewey and me, a pre-pandemic family edition. We traversed the 3-mile loop around my house amid trees, farmland, and standing water. We discussed family and career, data and writing, near-term goals, and longer-term aspirations. During the pandemic, these walks provided a lifeline, reminding me of countless such walks with Marcia. In addition to Marcia, I have many people to thank today. Thank you to Gregory Dalek, Dee Fenner, John Ayanian, Srijan Sen, Samir Saini for supporting my research and the future Redwood Center. Thank you to my research team members at the University of Michigan and the VA. You make this dream a reality, one that I remain honored to share with you. I must call out a special mention of Aaron Miller. I first hired Aaron in 2008. Our collaborations have grown and strengthened over the years. Aaron will serve as the managing director of the forthcoming Redwood Center, and I cannot express my gratitude enough for your effort, wisdom, and thoughtfulness. You make this possible. To my family, thank you. I would not have pursued a career in academic medicine without the considerable influence that my father, Dustin Zivin's career and insights had on my life. The language of research and grant funding, study sections and conferences, peer-reviewed publications, and scientific methods permeated my brain long before I had any awareness of what it meant. I published with him during my fellowship, and his guidance during my early career proved invaluable. In 2009, he gave a lecture here in the Department of Neurology, and my research group hosted a celebration for us. I only wish he could join this one. In February 2018, 3 months before my promotion to full professor became official, he died from cardiac illness. In our last communication before his unexpected death, I shared with him that I received a small grant to pivot my research towards reproductive mental health after having spent more than a dozen years focused on older adults. He replied in his laconic email style, "Terrific." He died less than 2 days later. Losing my father provided a devastating reminder that time for each of us remains finite. It spurred my pursuit of a Master of Fine Arts degree in writing and my goal of understanding the role of women in medicine, research, and academia. Thank you, Dad. To my mother, Rennie Zivin, who is watching from California, thank you. As a child, I gave you a tough time about setting aside your goals and dreams so that Dad could excel in his career. With age and after becoming a parent, I had a greater appreciation of the challenges that you and other women faced in the 1970s and 80s. As a society, we have made important strides towards improving workplace, including academia for women with and without families. Greater efforts remain for work-life balance to become a reality. Thank you, Mom. To my sister, Leslie Candell, who traveled from Florida to join us in person, I cannot thank you enough for your ongoing support. No matter what challenges you have faced, you've always championed me, and I remain grateful. I also thank Rhonda McCammon. You did not ask for me to come into your life, yet over the years, we have raised our sons with their shared father. My gratitude for your patience, kindness, and acceptance knows no bounds. To Ryan, Lewis, and Reed McCammon, I cherish the lives and our family that we have built together. Thank you for pushing my boundaries and giving me the space and time to do the research and writing that you've heard about today. I hope that through my example and efforts, you each can live deep and full lives. To everyone here and online, my colleagues, my friends, and my family, thank you for your time and attention today. I will treasure the memory of this event and honor for the rest of my days. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. That was a marvelous guide into the forest, and we look forward to the work that you're going to do to help us find the best ways out of it in the areas that you're going to be researching. Thank you also to Dr. Fenner and Dr. Valenstein for their remarks. Congratulations again on your appointment as the Valenstein Professor. Thank you to all of our attendees, both in the room and online. Thank you to the many people whose contributions made tonight possible. Please join us in the auditorium for a reception, and thank you very much for coming.